Hey there, world. It's AJ, the Suburban Princess here. Welcome back to my pod. Today is going to be a solo pod simply because I've got a lot to say. And I don't necessarily know if it's going to be the smartest things to say or if I just feel like venting. I don't really know what my vibe is today, but I'll figure it out as I go along. So just bear with me. So, it is now February 2022. 2022. Sixers are basically playing their hearts out. I'm not sure if it's for any reason in particular. I just wonder sometimes if we're just kind of waiting to fail again with this team because I really don't know if anything that they're going to do thus far. Trying this with music. I want to see if this music thing actually translates on here, but you can actually put tracks on this, so that's kind of decent. I like that. Anyway, I don't know if the Sixers are really going to do anything this year. I'm really sick and tired of hearing everybody's supposed trades, even on social media. I was watching a little bit of Mike Missinelli today, and again, I get so. He had Joel Embiid on today, which was good because Joel Embiid, he said all the right things that you're supposed to say for a player that doesn't want to be involved anymore with the player that doesn't want to play with him. Whether it be jealousy, whether it just be narcissism, as we're going to call the player 25 because he no longer has a name in this city. He is just the dude who doesn't want to own up to his shortcomings. But Joel Embiid said everything he was supposed to say. He's not going to specify whether or not he's happy about a trade or not. But like any player, as he said, you have to be prepared that it's a business. And if they had decided to trade Embiid, that would obviously be pathetic. I don't think this team would be any better with just 25 and the rest of the guys. I don't think it would be any more special than with just Embiid right now with what he has to work with. But the difference is Embiid has matured and Embiid has improved a lot on his game, and Embiid has been focusing more on how he can be an MVP, whether he gets the MVP or not. I mean, right now, according to social media, he's number one in the standings, but you don't know if people are just saying that now because maybe Jokic or the Joker isn't really living up to his end of the bargain right now. I don't know if the Jazz are really doing much this year, obviously, but usually when the tables turn like that, that's usually just because it's the hot thing to talk about. All the other teams that they normally slurp are not really doing anything. Lakers ain't doing nothing. I think Bron should just coach. I feel like that's really what he wants to do until Bronny's officially, his son Bronny is actually in the NFL. I'll be honest, as a spectator, I still would like to go to a Sixers game this season, I'll be honest, because it was fun when I went to the season finale last year by accident because I thought I could sell the tickets when I had an impulse buy, and then I couldn't get rid of them, so I ended up just going with a friend of mine who has no idea about sports but had a fun time. I think that being a spectator in a totally social media driven climate that has become sports is hard to be just a spectator. I mean, obviously, I'm sitting here doing a pod for a reason because I'm tired of hearing of the same predictions for trades that will probably not happen. I don't want James Harden. I understand he's a great player, but he doesn't seem to really do anything other than just shoot, which to me is what the Sixers need. They need a shooter and a defender. And if he's not either one, then what is the point? I mean, he is a shooter, but I'm just saying, like, if his whole attitude is really the reason why most people don't want him, I just don't want him because I don't think he's that great, and I don't think he's proven himself to be that great, other than being on teams that didn't work for him. But now he's on a team, whether or not Kyrie's on there. Obviously, KD is a big old dent not being able to play right now. But if he can't even get this team ahead of the Sixers in the standings, then why would we want James Harden? I mean, I get it. He can shoot, but that's about it. And I understand it's a name, but the problem with us loving names in the city is that we don't really think about the whole player. We just think about the one thing that they're good at. And we need a player that is multi-talented. And that's why Dame Lillard could help, but right now he's, rehabbing an injury. And I don't know if his injury is going to affect him even being able to play like the way he did, but We won't know, I guess, till next year, but I don't know how long Lillard's out. I assume it's an indefinite thing. I think it's a muscle injury or something, but I know he came to Philly to get surgery done on it. So I think a lot of us wanted to read into that, but apparently it's just because we had the best surgeon or whatever doctor for the injury that he needed repaired. So that's why he was here. But it didn't mean that any deal was made. He's never ever really teased any kind of affiliation with the Sixers. So I wouldn't expect him to be on the team either. Now, mind you, it doesn't really make sense for him to want to stay in Portland. But to me, if you can't even tease that you even want to be here, then you clearly don't want to be here. So to me, the reality is that we might have just wasted a whole season hoping that they could finish where they left off last season, the Sixers, and get past the second round. Honestly, the only reason that will happen is if they have a huge collapse of competition once they get into the playoffs this year, if they do. But right now, they're not doing pretty bad. I mean, I think they've moved up in their rankings a little bit more. They had a chance to be like second right now, but of course, 2 losses in a row with a very tight division is not very good for you. Obviously, beating the Bulls last night was great, but they have a lot of other competition in the East that is just better than them. And it's shocking at this point because I feel like a lot of people have been kind of gunning for the Sixers to be this story of, underdog stuff. But underdog talk only lasts but so long. I mean, what's today? 3 days ago was the anniversary of the Super Bowl win. This 52. Nick Foles. I'm very self-conscious right now because I see this thing here. Anyway, but Super Bowl 52 with Nick Foles being our savior and forever being our savior at this point, because who knows when the Eagles will get it together. But you just can't really go with whatever the wave of reporters and vloggers and bloggers, podcasters say, because at the end of the day, there's still an ineptitude on the Sixers team. And that's what's kind of annoying, because you want to root for them every night, but you can always tell when they're going to lose a game. You can always tell when the momentum's gone, even in those last fourth quarter minutes, that sometimes I can just tell. Just like I knew they were going to lose that one game over the weekend. I even forgot who they played against, because that's how much it meant to me. But I just knew they weren't going to be able to come back and win it. And it wasn't going to go into overtime. But I think at this point, I can kind of see that this team is lacking like just maybe 2 players that might help them get over the hump if they go into the playoffs this year. And it's just not that easy. I think everyone thinks it's like a McDonald's Happy Meal menu that you can pick from. And it's never going to be that. Okay. Money is a serious issue. And if they want to get a return that's halfway comparable to what Ben's 25 salary accumulates, then so be it. But until then, we're just going to have to keep wishing and hoping. And usually, my work day's over, so I'm technically tired, but I felt like I had to say stuff. It really wouldn't be a horrible thing, obviously, if they did end up trading Harden. But I mean, the trade deadline is coming up, and at this point, there are trades already sort of being made already. I don't think the Sixers will make a trade, honestly. I think we're stuck with this conundrum until the end of the season, and maybe things will pop over the off season. But by that point, everybody will be back in either Phillies once the MLB decides to stop being bitches and get a deal done, or we'll be in Eagle mode, because by then the draft will hit and everybody will only care if the Eagles decide to get more defensive help or linebacker help or tight end help, whatever. Although I don't think we need tight end help. I'm very happy with Dallas Goddard. Shout out to Sean Bradley, special teamer. Glad he's feeling better. He had a stinger issue, and I know he had some kind of, I guess, minor surgery or whatever. But if I see him on social media, that means he's obviously feeling better. So welcome back, homie. That is a cutie that I would not mind calling my Valentine. I still hold a candle to Dallas Goddard, but obviously he is not single. But I still say shout out to Dallas Goddard. Have a wonderful Valentine's weekend, whatever, if you observe it. Some couples probably don't even care. Honestly, they're probably just so happy to not be slamming pads that they just want to sleep and plan vacations to get out of cold Philadelphia if they're not already out of here. But yes. Anyway, shout out to Temple's own Sean Bradley. What's up? So moving on. Outside of the Sixers chat, I wanted to discuss this obsession we have with babies and celebrities. Now, mind you, I am definitely obsessed with Kyrie. What's her name? Kylie's first child, Stormy, she had with Travis Scott. Now she just gave birth to a second one. I normally wouldn't care, but I'm dying to know if the baby will be just as cute as Stormy. Because they always say that sometimes pretty people don't make cute babies, and they're kind of a all right looking couple. I mean, personally, I always sit there and go, if you want to be the carrier for this dude who may or may not stick around, go through the pain all you want. I would not want to do that. But, Stormy's a beautiful child. I hope that she grows up and, has twice as much confidence as Kylie doesn't appear to have. But I also pray that maybe Travis keep his nose clean and probably stay around for a while instead of, whatever. But anyway, the point was with the baby thing is that, with Rihanna, subtly, not even subtly, she just was like, here, I'm pregnant, whatever. I just think the reality is that even before she was pregnant, me and others, obviously, all over the world, were talking about how we thought she was pregnant many times over, and she wasn't. Now, mind you, people have to understand that women who are on birth control or women who are going to their 30s accumulate weight that just comes out of fucking nowhere. Trust me, I'm 43, okay? And this shit wasn't always there. In fact, now that I see it, I swear I might go on an emergency fast. Because it was never that much of an issue before, and now I'm starting to notice it. Now, mind you, I also could be getting sick. Maybe my glands are swollen, but you get older and some shit just doesn't go away as fast as you did when you were 20 and thin and walking around minding your own business, eating whatever you want. So sometimes the thing with Rihanna is that there's been so much scrutiny about her body, and being that she has a very sexy image and she promotes her Fenty lingerie line, you would think that people would back off from the first few times they said she looked pregnant. There are times where you realize that the comment section on social media doesn't need to be operated, and people should just not even feel the need to comment. If you don't want to say she looks hot, then I wouldn't say anything at all. But I understand the rude, jealous, petty need to want to address the fact that what's going on? Are we supposed to be celebrating or what? But we think we know these people and we don't. I mean, I'm sitting here following Britney Spears. I wasn't following her a while, but I felt bad for her. After everything that's gone down, she finally got out of that conservatorship, but I don't know if she's really truly out of it per se, because I still feel like she's been venting a lot more, obviously because of her sister putting her on blast and writing this stupid book to get herself some money. I assume she's been cut off at this point, as most of her family has, but there's still some things probably still lingering, and obviously we know that Britney still probably needs a whole lot of prayer. I feel like every time she vents, I want to celebrate for her just to get it out. But I do also wonder if she truly was that suppressed, or is she really just mad because she allowed herself to be that suppressed? I mean, it's one thing when your family is kind of taking over your life, because at that time you probably were kind of like, I don't know what the hell was going on at that time, or having a down period, and they just swooped in, and their way of taking care of her was really taking over her life financially and making decisions for her that she didn't need to have made. I still do wonder if there are still some hooks in her that are not being revealed yet, but is she really free? Will she ever really be free? And I pray for her, because I pray that all the jealousy I used to have towards her dating Justin back in the day, not that that really mattered. I do wonder if sometimes we do get too involved in there's no wondering. We do all get involved, those who care, in celebrities' lives. There's something about Britney that seems very natural to me, but it's also at the same time not, if that makes any sense. Her lifestyle obviously is not natural, not normal, but there's something about her in her vulnerability now, knowing that she's not all well. I mean, there's still some questionable things. I do feel like that normal aspect of her, that human aspect of her that seems to have shown and broken through all the pop crap and stuff. And I think that that's what's making her likable, is that she seems human, she seems tangible. And I'm not one of these people that celebrated when she shaved her hair and went crazy. I was kind of like, holy crap. And I guess jumping into the subject of mental health, it just shows you that not everybody is all together. As much as I feel like it's been talked about a lot, I don't think people still really understand mental health and understand why it's easier than just an affirmation, or it's easier than just prayer even. I'll say that, even though I'm kind of contradicting myself. But mental health is something of a daily practice. I'm trying to start getting into the habit of eating more fruit, drinking more water, writing down what I eat, just for the sake of just noticing if I'm out of boredom, deciding to order out, which I almost did today, but then I decided I'm going to use some of the naan that my mom bought and make myself my own little pizza for lunch instead of ordering Domino's like I normally do. I'm going to try to inject a smoothie in somewhere in tonight too, just a little small one, so I don't, waste a lot of extra food I don't need to waste. But I want to just make a practice of trying to do something healthy every day. But I know me, because I am an ADD type and I do lose interest very quickly. But going back to mental health, people have to realize it's not just something that it clears up like a pimple, or you take a pill and then you're fine. Britney Spears is going to be Britney Spears for the rest of her life. And Britney Spears in the pop era and post conservatorship is still not the same Britney she's always been. So it shouldn't shock us that we see someone like her kind of bust out of that wall, but we should also realize now that the whole sacredness of being a celebrity is gone now. It's tarnished. Everybody sees through the bullshit now. The problem is now everybody wants to be a celebrity, but you realize why they're there and you're not, because there's a lot more work behind the scenes that kept them there, that a lot of us who think we can do it through YouTube and all these things, it doesn't work that quickly for us. One, we don't have the patience to do the work. Two, we don't have the specialists and help that they have. So the difference between you and a Britney Spears, that Britney Spears has been singing since she came out the damn womb. Whether or not you think it's good or not, she's been on shows, she's in the Mickey Mouse Club, she's done all this other stuff in between that we don't even know. And now look at her. She's had to cancel her own family. Okay? So I still have my family, We may not all be together all the time, but no one's suing nobody. And, I don't have two boys out there that, I don't see anymore because of whatever reason. I don't know if she's seen her boys lately. I think I've seen a couple videos where she's been with them, but, you don't know if that relationship is still genuine because, she's been away from them for most of the time from what it sounds like. But can you imagine giving birth to two children and not seeing them during the most crucial parts of their lives because you're held somewhere for a long time and you're not allowed to see them? That's where we're different. And some people have those situations, but it may not be under the bright lights of social media, of the news. No one cares whether you went to Starbucks every day. So how easy it seems for all of us to be content creators or podcasters or whatever we think we are. That work that is done for all these people who have maintained music careers, personalities, movies, actors, whatever, whatever they represent in the entertainment industry, they have maintained some kind of clout behind the scenes to get there and stay there and still be in our mouths in the gossip department. What we do now as content creators stays there, but does anybody really care? And even if they do care, it's temporary because we all care for one reason only. What does it do for me? You know, if it makes you laugh, then you probably follow that person. Or if it's music you're digging, then you're going to subscribe to that person's channel. Or if it's something you believe in service wise that they offer, you're going to subscribe. But other than that, I mean, it's no different from when artists start going different ways in their music and we all lose interest. I mean, hell, with Janet Jackson's documentary coming out, I don't care how diehard a fan you are. Not everybody bought her last couple albums. I didn't. I listened to Unbreakable. I liked it, but I could tell it was definitely more mature than her other albums, but it wasn't really like full of funk like it was supposed to be. But she was also at a dark time. It was also, I think that came out 2015. So it's like she still was probably kind of in the actress mode, but yet still dealing with like post Super Bowl drama. And now that we've seen the doc, we realize that people are just going to want to hold on to what they want to from that moment. Whatever makes them hate Justin more or hate him less or like him less, whatever. If you were a fan of Justin Timberlake, it doesn't really matter what happened, you know, because this whole situation was a mess. And you see how quick corporate and all those things, people can sell out just so they can look like they're on the right side of history when they really weren't, you know. The smart thing would have been to stand by both of them and just say that that was a mistake. They just won't perform for our halftime show again. They can go on with their lives. That was our mistake to think that they could do something that we liked. Now we won't book them anymore. Done. Didn't have to be Janet banned from the fucking Grammys and Justin getting his award for his album. Like, it didn't have to be that whole thing because it created a whole divide. And still to this day, people still talk about it like Justin killed their dog. Yes, it was a shame that he left her hanging. But you see, part of that was her saying she didn't want him to say anything. Now, the videos that came out of him kind of basically, ignore it, basically putting, like saying that he didn't have anything to do with it and all this stuff, you know, obviously we know where that came from. But the PR job that has to be done when supposedly something that would have blown over any other circumstance a day or two is exactly why the entertainment industry can suck, because everybody starts changing their colors when there's money involved, or when they're worried about money, or they're worried about their reputation. Not about the people involved, but their reputation. And so that's why that whole business is shady as hell, you know? And I wouldn't want to be a celebrity if I had to be in the middle of that and people have to make a choice about who they support. When in actuality, everybody supports both of their music, really. So making one person an enemy when you weren't even there is stupid. And the people who have co-signed on it to this day are still trying to act like they're proud of that decision. Fine, that's great. It may have worked for you then, but now, like 2022, you really think that's an issue now? Like, is that really important? Even if it comes back up, it just shows you how all that situation could have been cleared up so quickly if people wouldn't be so quick to fold. Going on to my next subject, I wanted to say, why are we so quick, to cancel people from social media or Spotify when they show a side of themselves that they've been the whole time? Whether Spotify cancels Joe Rogan, which they're not, is it any different from anybody letting someone like Nick Cannon speak about how he viewed Jews or Black Jews versus white Jews, whatever? Those people who said those things said them on their platforms. Now, mind you, Nick wasn't on Spotify, but at the end of the day, he still managed to do what he had to do in his punishment and come back into the fold and still produce Wild Out, still go make babies with 8 other women, and, you know, still live his life. So at the end of the day, what did it teach you? It just teaches you that if you do what they say, they will reward you. But at the end of the day, your opinion is still out there floating on video, you know? So if Joe Rogan even apologized, as he tried to do apparently recently, would it really matter? Because he's still going to be that dude that spoke out of turn more than once, you know? We all know that word is not okay to say. And we know that also people who confuse it for rappers saying it to people and Hispanic people saying it to each other and Black people saying it to each other, not in the same context, but it's still the word. At the end of the day, nobody wins that battle. But I mean, again, we're also contradicting free speech. As wrong as it is, everybody should be allowed to get that platform knowing who they are. And if they don't know who they are, then that's on their part, that's poor research. Because if you agree to let this person have a podcast and you know that they're risque or they say those things, you shouldn't have had them on there. But then again, is it against free speech to make somebody or take off all those episodes when now everybody wants to hear it who probably wasn't even a fan of his or didn't even know who he was? So now they don't have the proof, you know? At the end of the day, all this canceling thing started on social media. I mean, you know, conservatives all over the world and political pundits have destroyed the meaning of woke. You know, woke was supposed to be what it meant. It was supposed to be a rising and waking up into the truth of how Black people in this country have been tortured for years and degraded and deserve every comeuppance and ounce of respect that is coming our way. It's not bowing down. It's basically admitting that yes, we did not treat y'all like human beings. There's still some of us who have a lot to work through with that whole, new perspective of Black folk. Black History Month doesn't do it for us, Throwing a Black person on a fully white casted show doesn't do anything for us either. It's just the fact that your perspective needs to change because this isn't changing, and the crimes that are still being committed, the most recent shooting and killing of Amir Locke, another no-knock warrant victim like Rihanna Taylor was. And we still wondering why this is going around. And we still wonder why people are trying to, again, shove it under the rug just like they tried to do with Brianna. And we're just now seeing that this cop is getting a trial. Does he deserve a trial? No, I don't think he does. I think he knew what he was doing. I'm glad the boyfriend lived, because then if he'd have killed the boyfriend, then he would have really felt justified and he probably wouldn't have even been charged with anything because the boyfriend had the gun. But at the end of the day, you running up in somebody's apartment because you assume that they're selling drugs. Assuming. So who's the bigger idiot? And now one person's life, which still angers me about Breonna Taylor, simply because of the fact that she was left bleeding in the apartment. They didn't even try to take her to the hospital. And you wonder why people keep saying respect Black women. And it's stuff like this that make me realize I look back at myself and get more mad about how weak I was as a person to not defend myself after certain moments I've experienced as a Black woman that I've never had the confidence to this day to look back and say, that was some crap. And I didn't have the wherewithal to believe that I was worthy to pop back at that person. Because I didn't see myself as a Black person. I just saw myself as a person who had nothing to say. So we're all worthy of respect. But once we don't give it, we shouldn't expect it back. And there's a lot of things going on right now in this world that people feel have been vindicated by some other action. When at the end of the day, you have to remember context is important. And you can't just throw out generalizations these days and justify why you decide to do some stupid random crime and say, oh, I was just mad, because, I shouldn't feel like I have to do this for somebody because they're, discriminated against and I feel like they're winning and we're losing. No. I think that the bottom line is the messaging that we put out there. We need to start admitting that sometimes what we even say, even myself, what we're putting out there may not be helping it either. But at least if you are directly affected by somebody's heinous action, you have every right to ask them why, or open a conversation, or at least try to get the communication cleared that this was wrong and this is why, and someone should get a fair trial. Someone should get an excuse to plead their case, and even exchange of accountability. But these behaviors that are starting to slowly wreak their ugly heads with law enforcement, no matter what part of the United States it is, folks have to realize that whether or not you believe in God, whether or not you believe in karma, whether or not you believe in anything, at some point, light meets dark, dark meets light. So I believe there's a lot of narcissistic, non-mindful people out there, clearly. So some of y'all have to learn the hard way. But in essence, we're only given so much time in this life. I think even Michael Kendricks used to be on the Eagles, said at one point during a random interview, I don't know if it was around playoff time or after the Super Bowl or what, or during the Super Bowl after they won, but I know he would say we're all basically on Earth just renting space. We're not guaranteed to stay here forever, which is true. And I don't know if he was borrowing it from a famous quote or what, but I know I heard that part about we're all just renting space here for a little bit. We're all just trying to pay our bills and be happy. But this in-between period that we still have on this earth, we can't take for granted. Where you effed up, admit it, and move on. There are tens of things I know I have in my soul that I know I need to correct. The actual process of doing it is not exactly easy, but I know it's not easy and never thought it would be easy. But I also know that I don't want to leave this life not ever trying to slowly get better at what I need to do, at the hard stuff, at the easy stuff, at just stuff. Accepting that I'm in my 40s and that, I don't have to announce my age all the time, but it makes me feel human to say it because there's still a part of me that doesn't believe it. There's also still a part of me that never wants to look at it as old as per se. It's just more saying, this is how long I've physically been on this earth. But mentally, 25. But again, birds of a feather, the theme of my pod, is always about recognizing how all of us kind of are the same in a way. Whether or not we take the same paths, we explore the same ups and downs at the same time, the same way, we're still all trying to figure it out. And as a fan, I'm not even gonna lie, as a sports fan, I miss football already. I'm excited about the Super Bowl. I know it's not my squad, but Joe Burrow definitely will be something to watch. I can already feel, and this is obviously that comes with every Super Bowl week, they overhype somebody to the nth degree, if it hasn't already been that way. But I know that they're going to blow this whole Bengals, coming from the bottom, underdog type of thing. But you have to admit the fascination with Joe Burrow is that he actually seems normal and that he doesn't seem like this he doesn't seem like that stereotype of a jock, I mean, I was calling him Macaulay Culkin for the longest time because he looks like Macaulay Culkin to me, minus the drugs. He just looks like the guy that's just literally like, hey, Joe, what's up? That's it. That's the fascination. Matt Stafford. He doesn't look like exactly your star quarterback QB, He just got a massive arm. That's about it. I mean, to me, he's very simple. There's nothing that's flashy about his demeanor, but he is definitely I'm just here to work guy, It's nice to have two new faces in the Super Bowl. I'm glad that Brady finally retired. I'm hoping Aaron Rodgers is next because I feel like he's never going to live down COVID toe ever to me at this point. He definitely cheesed his image even more this year by being trying to be so slick about being a anti-vax person, which is fine if you want to be it, but he made it worse by trying to rename it something else. And the fact that they let him do it is just, that's what makes it so hypocritical. Nothing about the NFL at this point regarding the whole Brian Flores thing is shocking. I think we all know that the situation was revisited recently, or as much as 2013. It was Kaepernick in the Super Bowl, I think. Clearly, I didn't do my research either. Sorry. But Kaepernick was the introduction to what Flores is doing. And knowing now that I just was watching Higher Learning podcasts with Van and Rachel, knowing that, using Jay-Z's music to allegedly irritate Kenny Stills, who was a Kaepernick and still is a Kaepernick supporter, you do wonder if sometimes, if you don't throw stones at a glass house, and now he's on the other side of it and may never be employed again, but we'll see. He's pretty much played his role up until, they canned him in Miami. And I hope that he does see another job, but I also do now wonder if he understands that just because you're a coach, that doesn't mean that you can't be treated the same way Kaepernick was either when you try to, cry racism. Because the NFL probably looks at it like, look, we put end racism on the field. We're including, lift every voice and sing. Isn't that enough? Jay-Z's doing the halftime show. Are you happy? No. Because if you didn't want to participate in this whole politic thing, then you shouldn't have attempted to try to meet us halfway. Don't even bother then. If you wanted to get rid of Kaepernick, then you shouldn't even try to feel like you had to play along with the whole end racism shit. Stop hate. Talking about domestic violence when you clearly know some of these dudes got problems and are still beating women. So my whole thing is there's a way to play it, and then there's a way to just step back and say, I'm sorry, we're just a sports organization. We're not here to make any political statements. And had you said that, then nobody would be shocked about this lawsuit, Well, actually, maybe they would be then. I don't know. But my point is, it's just, if you're going, you can't play both sides, because we clearly know that obviously Goodell is the face of the puppet, but we all know he probably doesn't believe half the stuff, or he really doesn't feel the same way as the owners do, but he's the commissioner, so he has to go along with majority rules. Now, there's always the saying, don't go along to get along, but when it involves money, billions, never mind. You ain't got no say, because money makes this country go round. And unfortunately, if money was never a factor, then Colin would still be playing. Brian Flores would have a job and not even have to put no lawsuit out there, class action lawsuit. There would be no need to even discuss lift every voice and sing, even though I think that's beyond pandering. As soon as that even was announced, I thought it was a joke. I was like, please don't do this. And then it makes the openings longer. We already hate the formality of singing through the national anthem anyway. Why are you going to add the extra anthem just to appease black folk? Especially when half the black folk who say they're supporting Kaepernick still aren't watching. So that's not going to make them turn on the channel any faster. If anything, it just gives people material for their podcast to laugh at you. So I say stop the end racism shit. If you want to do the inspire change bit, fine. But you better make sure fourth quarter rolls around, y'all have a praise report that says you did actually support these supposed charities. That's all that matters. Show results. Don't just save face, because what this whole Brian Flores thing is showing, even on his end, is that you can't say it and not mean it, because it's just going to come up and blow back in your face. And now that's what he's going through. I do think it's a good thing to do, but I don't think it's going to make a difference either way. They always find a way to dance around it, because people will feel like they've done enough on their end, and they can always hire from within, which is exactly what a majority of these most recent hires have been. I mean, you have your token black coaches, which are Lovey and Mike. Oh my gosh, brother from the Steelers. I'm totally blanking, but those are the coaches that you're pretty much going to stick with because they're safe bets. and they're steady. But anybody new up in here, they ain't trying to hear it if they don't include you in the club from day one, or they know you from the bottom up. They're going to look at you like, oh, I think there's such and such as friend. I don't know them. I would at least think that people would trust in Andy Reid's choice and keep in Eric Bieniemy at this point, and at least try to interview him at least once. But clearly, they don't think much about him either. I don't think the Eagles thought much of Deuce, which makes me even more mad he went to Detroit, because I think that's even worse. I don't think Detroit's going to help him either. I think that was a no-brainer to just allow at least Deuce to be assistant coach, But it's a shame. I mean, there's certain things that just seem like they're such a gimme, and not even worth all the fanfare and political red tape, that you could just avoid any drama by just giving it a shot. You give it a year. If it doesn't work, which in Brian's case, I have to say, he did improve the record a little for the Dolphins. So it's like, I still didn't understand the firing, but maybe it was karma, But I still do feel like, as a brother, he does deserve every opportunity to be able to go to another team. I didn't like him going to the Texans anyway, so I'm kind of glad if they wanted to just promote Lovie Smith just to save face, fine. But that Josh McCown rumor was out there for a minute. Whether or not he has experience doesn't seem to be relevant, because Josh McDaniels up in the Raiders now, and I don't know if that's saying much. I know if the Raiders seem more consistent in play next season, then maybe it'll make a difference. But I mean, look, we have Sirianni in Philly, and nobody thought he was going to last longer than 6 games. I didn't think he was. And I still think he's kind of dorky, but I overall believe that his will to win is definitely there, but I don't know if it's really truly connecting throughout the whole roster. I don't think there's any other choices when it comes to the Eagles front office, because they usually like to stay familiar. My biggest question is, speaking of which, I don't doubt Hurts staying as a quarterback, but I do wonder if Carson Wentz will fulfill his full contract in Indy. I do wonder if they do decide to keep him there, will they do what they did here in Philly and just get a backup from the draft? Like, what if Kenny Pickett goes there? Will Carson feel that same pressure that he did here? And then it just kind of just blows up in his face, because I'll be sitting there thinking, well, the same thing would have happened here is going to happen in Indy. If you don't perform, they're going to not feel sure about you, just like we did in the last couple of years. Yes, you did get us to the Super Bowl, but you didn't finish, and a lot of his record here is not being able to finish. So, and then when he did, obviously that one year, it didn't matter because he still got hurt in the playoffs. So the point is, are you your worst enemy, or is it results just speaking truth? Like, are you only good up until you get injured, or were you always just kind of mid from day one anyway? You just don't know. And I believe that Frank Reich believes in him, but I also know that he only has so much time, because he started out pretty late in his career, I guess, considered for age, that they're not going to consider him a starting quarterback for long if he even remotely gets hurt next year. But they're going to want to get their backup now, and I guarantee you it's going to be one of those quarterbacks. So I don't know exactly what the pecking order is for the Colts, but it wouldn't shock me. I mean, if Pittsburgh thinks that it's better off for them to not be predictable and get Pickett for a quarterback, they might actually stick with Mason Crosby, which I think is weird. But now with Ben leaving, thank God, they might want to look for some new blood. I mean, because I don't think him or Haskins is the answer. But supposedly the buzz is that, it would be too predictable for him because he went to Pitt, and for him to go to Pittsburgh. But I think that makes sense to me more than anything. I don't think it really matters. At the end of the day, if you really want a good player and you want a steady player, that's who you get, especially if you're up that far in the draft. So, but it depends. It depends on how things look. I mean, I wouldn't also be shocked if the Eagles fuck around and get him, and just for safety. I mean, just for insurance. But unlike Carson, I don't think Hurts would be bothered by it. I think he would expect it, especially because he knows he hasn't totally lived up to his part of the deal this past season, but he's gotten through most of the season. And when he did have good games, they were good, but there's still an issue of whether he sees the field and the wide receivers good enough, whether he can consistently throw deep, because I do believe he can, but I think he doesn't do it consistently because he doesn't either trust or he just doesn't have the vision yet. I do think he's hard on himself. I'm sure he's getting a lot of advice, and maybe that's part of the reason why when it comes to delivering, he's a little hesitant if he's not running. And now that we know that he's gotten his ankle cleaned up, he most likely will be probably late starting in the season, but I think he'll be fine. He might recover faster than people think, for all we know. But we don't know a lot about Hurts, and I think that's slightly nerve-wracking, but slightly exciting at the same time, because if he comes back even better than ever, and for them to end the season 9-8, considering how gloomy it looked after week 1, it's saying a lot about the team. Attitude has definitely kept that team afloat this past season, because myself, I almost gave up in the week 6 and 7. I thought this team is sunk, but I shouldn't expect it as much. But after week 1, how could you not be a little high on the team, especially when they kind of got wins and slid in and got some wins mid-season? But overall, they all stuck their chins out and said, we're going to just deal with it and work with what we got, because that's all they had. But obviously the Bucs game was one and done, but I think they could have played a lot better even if they had lost, and they didn't even know where to start. And that's what made it horrible, because I don't think Hurts was even on a good foot at all once he got out there. So, in closing, birds of a feather, AJ just felt like chatting about all these things that have been on her mind. I had some extra time finishing my strawberries, and so until next pod, have a great night. Thanks for listening. Fly, Eagles, fly. Go Sixers. Go Flyers. And Phillies, get a deal done.